Good evening, my friends. I want you to do something radically different today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not someday when the conditions feel more favorable, when you feel more ready, when you have gathered enough courage or evidence or permission. Today, right now, in this breath, in this moment, which is the only moment that has ever existed or will ever exist. I want you to say something not with your outer voice, not as a performance for anyone listening, but in the deep, sovereign interior of your own being, with the full weight of inner authority. I am a multimillionaire from today. Not a wish, not a goal written on a vision board, not a hope you carry like a candle you're afraid to let go of in case the wind comes. A fact. A spiritual fact, which is the only kind of fact that precedes and creates all other facts. And having claimed it, I want you to do something equally radical. I want you to put down the old self, not fight it, not argue with it, not explain to it why it must now leave. Simply refuse to continue being it. The self that waited for signs, the self that checked the account and let the number tell it who it was, the self that asked how before it dared to claim what. That self was not wrong for being what it was, but it has served its purpose, and you are stepping out of it now. Do you realize fully, with the whole of your understanding, that everything in your visible world is nothing more than the projected image of an internal assumption? Your outer life is a shadow, not a metaphor for a shadow, an actual shadow cast by the light of your inner speech, your private beliefs, the assumptions you have been quietly maintaining as fact in the unseen interior of your own mind. The shadow on the wall has no independent existence. It cannot change itself. It can only change when the thing casting it changes. So let me ask you directly, what are you casting? Are you speaking from poverty or from wealth? Are you affirming, even now, in the quiet running commentary of your inner life, the familiar story of limitation, the story that says, not yet, not me, not this, not enough? Or are you speaking as someone who has already arrived, who already inhabits the reality they desire, who is already living in the ease of what they have claimed? Assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. Not occasionally, not when the stars align, not depending on whether you have been good enough or have done enough or have waited long enough. Always. This is the law of consciousness, the law of assumption, the law of imagination. It does not care what name you use for it. It does not negotiate. It does not offer exceptions. It only responds to the state you dwell in. And it responds with absolute precision and absolute faithfulness. So I urge you not gently, but urgently, with the full force of what I know to be true, to dwell in the feeling that you are now a multimillionaire, not working toward it, not hoping to reach it, being it, from the inside, from the invisible, from the place where all things are first made real before they become visible. What does the morning feel like when you wake up as a multimillionaire? Not the hypothetical morning this morning, your morning. What does your body feel like when you open your eyes and there is no grip in your chest, no clutch of financial anxiety waiting for you as you surface into consciousness? What is the quality of a breath taken by someone who has everything they need? How do you walk? There is a specific quality to the movement of a person who is not carrying the weight of financial fear, a quietness in the body, a settledness, not arrogance, never arrogance, which is what insecurity does when it needs to look large, something quieter and more powerful than arrogance. Certainty, the specific physical ease of someone who knows who they are. How do you carry yourself in rooms, in silence, in your own company when no one is watching and there is nothing to perform? This is not about acting for the outside world. This is done in secret in the only place where creation actually occurs. And what is established in secret must, by the law that governs all things, be expressed openly, not because you force it, because that is the nature of seeds. The seed does not push the earth aside in some act of willpower. It simply becomes what it is, and the becoming is irresistible. You will not need to hustle this into existence. You will not need to argue or beg or prove. You will not need to convince the world. You need only to convince yourself, and once you are genuinely, completely, without remainder convinced, the world will mirror your conviction in exact and faithful detail. Your desire to be a multimillionaire is not vanity. I want to say this plainly, because many of you have been taught to be suspicious of this desire to qualify it. Apologize for it. Keep it small so it seems more acceptable. But every genuine desire is a divine invitation. You were not given a vision of abundance in order to be mocked by it. You were not shown the possibility of a life of financial freedom so that you could spend your days in the torment of wanting what you cannot have. You were shown it because it is yours already real in the invisible dimension from which all visible things arise. Your work is not to earn it, your work is to align with it, to come into resonance with the version of your life that already exists in consciousness, waiting for you to claim it. So say it again, not as a plea sent upward into an indifferent sky, as a declaration made inward to the creative power that is your own imagination. I am a multimillionaire from today. Feel it, breathe it. Let it settle into the body the way certainty settles, not with excitement, not with the electric charge of something hoped for, but with the quiet, deep, unmovable quality of something known. Walk through this day in that state, and all the days that follow. Let others say what they say. Let them reach for the word delusion, the word fantasy, the word madness. Remember what I am telling you. The world you see around you is yourself pushed out. Every response you receive from the world is the echo of your own inner state returning to you in form. If someone calls you mad for claiming abundance, it is simply an old belief, your own or theirs, echoing back from the environment. Do not engage it. Do not fight it. Simply assume a new inner conversation and watch the echo change. When you look in the mirror, see the face of wealth, not a wealthy performance, not wealth costumed over anxiety. The actual, genuine face of someone for whom abundance is simply the background condition of their life, the way air is the background condition of breathing. Unremarkable. Taken for granted in the best sense. When you eat, eat as someone who eats in abundance, not with excess, but with the specific ease of someone who has never had to calculate whether they deserve what is on the table. When you rest at night, rest as someone who has everything already accomplished. Not planning, not strategizing, not lying there reviewing what you must do to finally arrive. Already arrived, already home, already complete. You are not trying to become a multimillionaire. You are one in the dimension where all things are first established. And once you are completely, genuinely, persistently, that in consciousness, the world has no option but to deliver you the physical correspondence. A multimillionaire does not wake up calculating survival. There is no scramble, no panic, no desperate running of numbers at 3 in the morning, trying to figure out how the month will close. The multimillionaire thinks from the mountain top, not from the valley, straining to see the peak. From it, already there, looking out over everything from the vantage of someone who has arrived. They give freely, not because they have calculated that they can afford to, but because generosity is the natural behavior of someone who lives in the consciousness of overflow. They bless others not as a strategy, but as an expression of their state. There is a stillness in how such a person lives, a boldness that is not loud, a confidence that does not need to announce itself. You do not become that person through effort, you become that person through identity. And identity is always the interior thing, not the exterior performance. You do not get rich to feel rich. You feel rich and you become rich. This is the truth the world does not understand. The world chases the shadow and wonders why it cannot catch it. But you know better. You know that the shadow follows the substance, never the other way around. And the substance is always in consciousness. What is your inner speech right now? Not the speech you're performing for others. The private, unguarded running narrative of your mind, the voice that comments on your day, that interprets what you see, that tells you what things mean. What is it saying? Is it rehearsing debt? Is it running the familiar mental loop of bills and shortfalls and the quiet dread of not enough? Or is it speaking from the solid satisfaction of someone who is wealthy beyond measure? You can change it. Right now, not someday after you have healed enough old patterns or done enough work. Now. Revision is available in every moment, not just revision of past memories, but revision of present assumptions. You can override any belief, any pattern, any habitual inner narrative, and replace it with the assumption of wealth. And that assumption, persisted in with genuine feeling, will clothe itself in reality. It must. That is not a promise, it is a law. Do not look for the signs too early. Seeds do not sprout because we dig them up daily to check. You plant the seed of I am a multimillionaire and you water it with feeling. You give it the steady sunlight of inner peace. You trust. You know that the harvest is not merely possible but inevitable. And when people eventually ask you, and they will ask, what changed? How did this happen? What did you do? You will smile, not with arrogance, with the gentle certainty of someone who knows exactly what occurred. You will say, I assumed it. I lived it before I saw it. And then I saw what I had been living. The old version of you will resist this. I want you to know that in advance, so you are not surprised by it, and do not take it as a sign that something is wrong. The old self, the fearful one, the waiting one, the one who needed proof before belief, that version does not surrender quietly. It will make arguments. It will present evidence. It will point at the bank balance and the bills and the gap between what you are claiming and what your circumstances currently show. And it will call this pointing realism. It is not realism. It is the old state attempting to reclaim its territory. Let it go. Not by fighting it, resistance feeds what it resists, but by simply withdrawing your allegiance from it, by returning again and again to the new assumption, by making the new inner conversation your home, so that the old one feels increasingly foreign, increasingly small, increasingly like last year's shoes that no longer fit because you have grown. This is a resurrection. Not metaphorically, actually. You are dying to a former self and rising as something new. And like all births, it involves some discomfort. The resistance you feel, the strangeness, the moments of doubt, these are not evidence that it is not working. They are the sensation of genuine transformation, the old self trembling before it is released. Let it go. It has served you. Thank it if you like, but release it. Because the version of you that has millions, that self is already within you, already real in the only dimension where reality is first established. You are not creating it. You are awakening to it. You are remembering what you have always had access to, what you could have claimed at any moment, what was never withheld from you, only unimagined. Once you are awake, once the assumption has genuinely settled into you, not as a practice you perform, but as the ground you stand on, notice what begins to happen. Not what might happen, what does happen. Conversations shift. The quality of your interactions changes because you are no longer bringing the frequency of lack into every room. An opportunity surfaces from a direction you weren't watching. A check arrives, or a connection that leads to one. An idea presents itself that didn't exist before, or existed, but you couldn't see it from your previous state. And you are not surprised. You are not even particularly excited, because you knew you have been living in the state that generates these things. They are not miracles to you, they are simply the echo of your assumption returning to you in form. The outer world catching up to the inner world you have already established. You remain unmoved by delays. You remain centered when something seems to contradict your assumption. Not because you are suppressing doubt, but because your conviction is rooted in something deeper than appearances. The world of appearances is, as I have told you, the past in motion, old assumptions crystallized, old states made visible. You are concerned with the present in consciousness, which is the only genuine point of power. Each morning, as you open your eyes, you do not wake as the person trying to make ends meet. You wake as the multimillionaire. Before you check anything, before the day's obligations arrive, before your mind fills with its familiar agenda, you return to the state. You feel it. You inhabit it. You let it be the first conscious choice of the day, setting the tone for everything that follows. You will walk through your day with a quiet certainty that needs no external validation, that does not search the environment for confirmation, that does not soften or strengthen based on what the day brings. A certainty that is simply there the way your knowledge of your own name is there, not held, simply known. From that knowing, you give, you radiate. You move through the world as someone who is not afraid of running out, because you live in the consciousness of overflow. And the specific joy of this is not just what it draws toward you, it is what it does to you. You are no longer contracted. You are no longer in the posture of scarcity. You are open, spacious, available to the good that is always seeking the open channels through which to flow. When fear tries to whisper, and it will whisper, especially at first, you do not wrestle it. You do not demand that it leave. You do not fight it with affirmations wielded like weapons. You simply return. Return to the state. Return to the feeling. Return to the knowing that is now your permanent address. I am a multi-millionaire from today. Not to make it true. To remind yourself that it already is in the only dimension where truth is first established. And from that truth, the visible world will follow, with the same faithfulness and the same inevitability with which every reflection has ever followed its source. You are no longer asking the world for permission. You are no longer waiting for the world's confirmation before you allow yourself to feel whole. You are the confirmation. You are the source. You are the operant power, the creative consciousness through which reality is shaped. You are not a victim of life. You are its author. Begin to notice how you sit, how you breathe, how you answer a question, how you enter a room. The wealthy person, the genuinely wealthy person, not performing wealth but inhabiting it, moves with a particular quality. Not slowness from laziness, but deliberateness from confidence. Not fewer words from having less to say, but fewer words because each one carries weight. Power lives in the silence of someone who is rooted in the state that knows. And when the old voices rise, the ones that say, "This is too much, I don't deserve this, who am I to be wealthy?" you do not suppress them with force. You meet them with something unexpected, compassion. You look at them and say quietly with genuine warmth, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I am safe now. I am free now. I am worthy now." And you mean it, because you have understood that those voices were never enemies. They were old protectors, operating from an old map. The map has changed. You have grown beyond the territory it described. True wealth, the wealth I am pointing you toward, is not only about money. It is about wholeness, about freedom of mind and richness of spirit, and the specific expansiveness of heart that belongs to someone who has stopped living in conflict with their own desire. When you inhabit this consciousness, the money is not the point. The money is the natural outpouring of the state you embody. It comes the way water comes when you open a channel, not because you forced it, but because you removed the obstruction. You begin to make decisions differently, not recklessly, The wealthy consciousness is not reckless. It is expansive. It asks not, can I afford this, but does this align with who I am now? And who you are now is someone who no longer entertains the vibration of lack, not because you are avoiding it out of fear, but because you have genuinely outgrown it. The way a grown person cannot fit into a child's chair. It is simply too small for the self you have become. You've made wealth your new normal, not a peak experience, not a lucky break, your baseline. The ground from which you operate, beneath which you will not sink, because you have so deeply saturated your being with the feeling of abundance that anything less feels not just uncomfortable but wrong. Wrong in the way that an ill-fitting garment is wrong. In a physical, bodily way that requires no analysis. And the universe, which always and faithfully confirms your identity, rushes to support the new standard. There is a paradox at the center of all of this, and I want to give it to you directly because it is perhaps the most useful thing I can say. The moment you stop needing the manifestation is the moment it rushes toward you. Not because you have given up, not because you have decided the desire wasn't worth claiming, but because you have finally, completely, without remainder, occupied the state. You already have what you desire in the only dimension where having is first established. You are content, you are satisfied, you are complete. The physical manifestation becomes not a rescue, but a recognition of the outer world, catching up to the inner world you have already built. This is the paradox. The grasping keeps it away. The resting in it draws it near. The needing creates the experience of not having. The knowing, the settled, untroubled, unexcited knowing creates the experience of having. So rest in it. Not visiting it like a tourist who must return to their real country when the holiday is over. Living there. Making it your permanent address. Tending it daily. Protecting it. Feeding it with the specific gratitude that belongs to someone who has already received, and with the imagination that allows you to inhabit it more and more fully, and with the inner peace that is the evidence that your foundation is solid. At the end of this, at the end of all the words, all the teaching, all the instruction, everything resolves into this single, unqualified, undeniable inner declaration. I am a multi-millionaire from today. Not because the world has said so. Not because your circumstances have confirmed it. Not because you have done enough or waited long enough or finally earned the right to believe it. Because you have assumed it. Because you have dared to step into a reality not yet visible to others but already fully real within you. You accepted your inheritance not from any external authority, but from the divine creative power that is your own imagination, your own consciousness, your own I am. This is not the end of a teaching. This is the beginning of a way of living. From this moment forward, you walk differently. You think from a different ground. You speak from a different center. You create not from effort, but from knowing. You do not look outward for evidence, you live inward from certainty. And the evidence comes to find you, because evidence always follows the state that generates it. The old story is finished. The old self has dissolved. The curtain has lifted. You are revealed not as someone trying to become wealthy, not as someone working toward it, not as someone hoping, but as someone who already is. And everything in your world will now rearrange itself to mirror this truth. Persist in it, rest in it, honor it, because your world is simply waiting for your decision. And today you have decided, I am a multi-millionaire from today. Go, not as someone wishing, not as someone waiting, as someone who knows, and nothing can stop it. This is Neville Lectures. I'll see you again in the next video.